Lixada Titanium Twig Stove. I didn't need one of these, I've got enough stoves, but I saw it on Amazon, it was having a sale. I picked up this along with the alcohol burner to go with it, and together they was about £25 I think, which I thought was an absolute bargain. Alcohol stoves alone, they probably run you about £15–20. You can tell from this what they've done. They've stolen the idea from Avenue. That's my Avenue burner, if I can get it the right way round. They've changed the spec slightly. They changed the height of it, so it's a little tiny bit higher, just by a couple of mil, and called it their own. After you take it out the pouch, you've got a base plate, you've got a alcohol stove holder, and you've got the outside of the little titanium stove, and it comes with a pin to hold it all together. Doesn't take much to assemble, but it can be a bit fiddly. Once you get it together, it's just a case of putting this pin in and you're good to go. I always find it a lot harder to do this sort of thing when I've got the camera on. It will go in there. There we go. Beautiful job. A little piece of wire they give you to put on there. It's got a clasp on it, which is a good thing so you don't lose the pin. Initially I was quite impressed. It's a reasonable size, weighs next to nothing, and it'd be something we could use twigs with and also alcohol. And then I put it together and realised it's not as good as what I thought in the first place. It was only after I put the stove together I realised how badly designed it is. From the top of the alcohol stove to the top of the base there, it's only about ½ an inch or about 12mm, which isn't really enough. You need a bit more. You need really more like an inch to give it enough height so you get a nice bloom and make it the most efficient. So that was a bit of a fail. So then I thought I'd take that out and try my Trangia alcohol stove in there. And then I realised that doesn't fit either. Look at it. The hole, you can't get it in, but it's a bit of a faff. It's a bit... If you had liquid alcohol in here, you don't want to be forcing that in and out. Your alcohol's going to go everywhere. So for me that was a complete fail as well. So then I took this plate out and thought, you know what about running it with just the alcohol stove in the bottom? And then he's a little bit low, there's too much height there really for it to be most efficient. So what I thought I'd try was, I've got one of these trivets, I'll put him in there and I'll raise him up. And that didn't really help much either, because he's pretty much in the same position he was before. So I thought, fair enough, okay, what about if I run my Trangia in him? And then maybe I could find something to raise the height up a little bit. And then once I've done that, I could also use him with the simmer ring. And it wasn't until I tried it, I realised the simmer ring doesn't fit inside the gap. Okay, there is an argument to say that I could adjust the simmer ring and drop him on top. I guess that would work just fine if I got the right height on the Trangia inside or whatever alcohol stove I'm using. The other thing I tried was getting my little remote stove in there, my gas stove. Yeah, it looks like it fits absolutely fine, but again, you can see he's pretty much got no clearance at all. So the gas burner's a bit high. So my overall thoughts to the people who designed this little stove setup. By the way, this isn't unique to Lixada. You've probably seen these. There's lots of manufacturers, makers out there, they're peddling the exact same product. I would imagine the specs the exact same as well. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. This could have been so good. It could have been so much better. Like I was saying, my overall thoughts on whoever created this is, you're a bunch of clowns. You could have done so much better. All you had to do was make this hole just a tiny bit bigger, so something like a Trangia spirit burner would go in there without having to ram it down and force it in and out. But more than that, you could have put this slot a little tiny bit lower, just about another 10mm or half an inch, and then that would have allowed the correct height to make it as efficient as possible, and also it would make it a really good height to put in a gas stove remotely. That led me to think, how could I improve this myself? Or if you good people out there, if you own one of these and you think you needed to improve it yourself, how would you go about it? So I came up with a few ideas. The first idea would be that I'd love to put a slot along there and on the opposite side, but I don't have the machinery to do it. It should be really sort of laser cut, and that would cut a hole perfectly in there. If I go at this with some kind of angle grinder or whatever, it's going to get messy, isn't it? I'm liable to damage myself and create an absolute mess here. So that option wasn't doable. But what I did come up with was, I wondered if I could work out the width and then drill a hole and drill a hole. Just about 3mm. I've got a couple of bits. And then just put some rod through, and then if I had 2 pieces of rod going through there, that would be sufficient then that I could use this for gas. I could then drop on the Trangia. I could then hopefully still fit this little stove on the top if I measured it right. However, it's made of titanium. Titanium's supposed to be super strong, so I don't know if drilling this would actually work. So I've got a couple of drill bits just in case that didn't work out too well. I got a whole box more, but I probably, once I've broken a couple of bits, I'll probably give up with that idea. I do have a plan B. If I need it, I'll tell you and I'll show you. If I don't, then all well and good. So if you're mad enough to try this for yourself at home, that is if it works out, there's no guarantees it will, I'll show you how I've measured this out. I've made a little mark which is halfway along there. I've then made a mark on here which is halfway along there. I've then got a piece of card and I've marked that to correspond with that line there, and I've made another mark here which is about 10mm down on this piece of card. So far it has probably made no sense to you whatsoever, right? But this is how I'm going to mark it out. I'm going to align that there. I know the height that I want to put my 2 holes. I then need to know my width, and in order to find my width, I've got this piece here which I will line up with that, and when the widest point here corresponds with this line here, I will then make a mark either side and then go a couple of mil wider each side. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to avoid any fancy calculations, and trying to overcomplicate things. So I've lined these two up here. I'll move it up there to the widest point. Make a mark on the inside, just like so. And then I want to come across just a little bit. That's where I'm going to drill my holes. Just to show you, now I've got my template. I'll raise him up, that lines up, that's the height, and I know it's the width as well. And so all I need to do is make a mark on the titanium both sides, do the same on the opposite side, just there, and then see if I can drill him. It has occurred to me that by this point in the video I could have bored the pants off of everybody, and I may be doing this just for my own benefit. So, oh, it's going to be tight, isn't it? Alright, let's go with the first hole punch hole. I'm hoping that made a mark, and I'm going to go there. This is more or less making it up as I go along. I've made a mark, that's good. And he's made a little mark on the other side as well. Right, I think we're good. Let's give it a go. Wish me luck, everyone. Well, that was so much easier than what I thought it was going to be. I'll quickly run through the things I've learnt today by doing this little project. The first thing I've learnt is that titanium of this thickness is really easy to drill. I was surprised by that. I was expecting it to give me a bit more resistance and to burn for a couple of drill bits, but it's no different to going through aluminium. I also countersunk these with the pillar drill just to make it nice and tidy, because they blew out at the back a little bit when I went through. I also learnt that by putting a couple of pins through, I've made these out of a bit of stainless steel rod that I had. This is 2.5mm, I think. I've learnt that is now a really nice height for an alcohol stove. I'm quite pleased now with the burn height. That's taken me up to 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters, so I'm very happy with that. However, when I put the transier in, he's a little tiny bit lower because of the design. He sits lower. He's more like 1.5 inches or about 3.5 centimeters. So I'm not overly disappointed about that. I can also now fit in, this is the firebox gas stove. Gosh, as you can see, it still isn't perfect, but it's much better than what it was with the pins. You can fit in the firebox gas stove, no problem at all. And these are really nice height inside there. There is a bit of a caveat to that, and that is that this plate that comes with the firebox stove, he won't fit. You could try and jam him in there, but it's really not going to work. He just won't fit at all. I know the question you're going to ask me is, does the transier gas stove fit inside? And the answer is categorically no. Even when I've tried it and taken this plate off, when I've sat him down inside, the transier has got this long pipe that comes out the bottom, and he's just not flexible enough to pop out. of there. So he's a big no-no, I'm afraid. If you want to find out how this bad boy performs, I'll show you in the next video.